Tonight, we travel deep into the forgotten origins of human history, to a place where myth and memory still breathe beneath the sand. A story older than scripture, older than language itself, waiting for you to listen. So settle in. Let the noise of the day fade. Let the rain outside your window become the rhythm of another world. And before we begin, make sure you're part of our journey. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next story hidden beneath the silence of time. Now close your eyes and drift to the edge of the world's first city. The air smells of rain and dust. You stand before the ruins of Eridu, where the first bricks of civilization were laid. The wind moves through shattered columns like breath through an ancient throat. Every gust carries whispers, not of gods, but of witnesses. Beneath your feet, the earth hums faintly, alive with memory. They say the first descent happened here. The Sumerians didn't speak of gods descending in clouds of gold. They described fire, noise, light so pure it carved shadows into the ground. You close your eyes and imagine it. The night torn open, the stars rearranging themselves to make room for something vast. And when the light faded, they were standing here. The Watchers. They weren't angels. They weren't human. The old texts call them Apkallu, beings who stepped down from the sky bearing knowledge that did not belong to this world. They taught early mankind how to build, how to write, how to measure the heavens. But every gift carries a cost. The tablets of Eridu speak of warnings, that some knowledge was meant to remain silent. The Watchers ignored this. They taught freely, believing that truth belonged to all. When you touch the broken stone where their temple once stood, it vibrates faintly, like something remembering the sound of their voices. You open your notebook. Inside is a sketch of an ancient carving. Tall figures with long cloaks, wings folded behind them, holding devices that look like modern tools. One holds a sphere, perhaps a map, perhaps something else. The inscription beneath it reads, "Those who came down to teach the measure of stars." Lightning flashes across the plain. For a moment, the ruins seem whole again. Columns rise from the ground, shimmering with life. You see figures moving between them. Not visions, not ghosts, but memories replaying themselves through the rhythm of thunder. You hear their chant, low and resonant. We descend to awaken the dust. And you feel it, the unmistakable hum of truth hidden beneath myth. In the distance, a voice, old, cracked by centuries, speaks from a tent lit by a single lantern. An archaeologist, his hands stained with clay, looks up when you enter. "You're not the first to come searching for them," he says. But most stop when they realize what they find isn't comfort. It's confrontation. He unfolds a fragment of a tablet. The cuneiform symbols glow faintly under lamplight. "This one," he says, mentions names the church later erased. Shamash, Enmeduranki, Utu, the bringers of fire, the keepers of forbidden sight. You ask what happened to them. He exhales slowly. The same thing that happens to every truth too bright for the world. It's buried, renamed, or burned. Outside, thunder rolls again, and for a brief instant the ground trembles. You kneel, pressing your palm to the earth. The vibration feels organized, rhythmic, like a signal rather than chance. Somewhere far below, the story still plays on repeat. The first descent, the day the sky touched the soil. You whisper their names aloud, though the wind almost steals them. The Watchers. The archaeologist warns you softly. Once you say their name, they notice you. You look up, and for a moment the sky seems closer, as if listening. That night, you cannot sleep. The sound of the storm merges with the hum beneath the earth. You understand now why the church called them demons. They did not come to conquer faith. They came to make it obsolete. And that is something no throne, earthly or divine, could allow. The rain stops near dawn. The plain glows faintly with reflected starlight. You realize the descent never ended. It only changed its form. Somewhere beneath the dust, the watchers still wait, patient, unseen, and awake. You walk through a corridor deep within the Museum of Nineveh, past signs that warn restricted access. The air here is cooler, the silence absolute. Behind glass cases lie tablets older than recorded history, slabs of clay etched with the first human language. But one tablet stands apart. It's not catalogued. It sits on a table wrapped in linen, a faint vibration pulsing from within. The curator hesitates when you ask about it. "That one isn't ours," she says. "It was found sealed inside a monastery wall in Anatolia. The Vatican requested it for translation, but it was misplaced." You unwrap the linen. The tablet glows faintly where the symbols catch the light. The carvings are shallow but deliberate. Each stroke seems alive, as if the clay remembers the hand that wrote it. When you trace the first line with your finger, a shiver runs through you. The text begins with sound, not words, a frequency too low to hear, but strong enough to feel. Then the meaning unfolds inside your mind. We descended to teach the rhythm of creation. We gave the clay its shape. We lit the dust and called it breath. Your throat tightens. It feels less like reading and more like listening to an echo older than memory. Scholars once dismissed these inscriptions as myth, stories meant to explain lightning, eclipses, and floods. But as you listen, you realize the watchers weren't described as gods at all. They were described as engineers, beings who understood resonance, energy, and transformation. Their arrival wasn't divine intervention, it was calibration. You lift the tablet closer. Tiny flecks of crystal embedded in the clay refract the light, forming patterns, almost like circuitry. You realize this isn't decoration, it's design. Suddenly, the museum lights flicker. The air hums. The vibration grows louder, deeper, syncing with your pulse. The curator backs away. "Put it down," she whispers. "It's activating." But you can't. The sound wraps around you like gravity. You see flashes, cities of gold stone, towers humming with blue light, beings with elongated skulls, teaching humans how to carve, how to read the stars. Then fire, collapse, silence. You drop the tablet. It hits the table with a dull crack. The hum ceases. For a long moment, no one moves. Then, faintly, a voice, not from the room, but from inside the walls, whispers in Sumerian. We remember who listens. The curator looks pale. "This is why it was hidden," she says, "because it reacts to thought. The church labeled it blasphemy, an artifact that speaks to the unworthy." You ask how she knows. She points to an old folder marked Archivum Secretum, De Tabulis, Vigilantium. Inside are photographs stamped with Vatican seals. The documents describe animated clay relics capable of producing sound from vibration alone. Notes from the 1600s warn that some monks who translated them went blind, claiming to see light behind language. You stare at the tablet. In the silence, you swear you can still hear it breathing. Later that night, back in your hotel, you record the sound it made. When you play it back, it isn't hum or static. It's a voice, layered, distant, singing a single line again and again. The teachers return when the students remember. You stop the recording. The light in your room flickers once, as if acknowledging. You realize that what you touched today wasn't an object. It was a remnant of communication. The earliest language encoded not in words, but in vibration. Outside, the wind carries the same frequency you felt in the ruins. You step onto the balcony. The city hums softly beneath you. The same tone, the same rhythm. You whisper to the dark, half in fear, half in awe. "You're still here, aren't you?" The hum deepens, answering like a heartbeat. And in that moment, you understand what the Vatican feared most. Not demons rising from beneath the earth, but knowledge rising from within it. You walk through the narrow alleys of ancient Uruk as the night breathes against the walls. The ruins sleep, but something underneath them doesn't. A few lamps burn weakly against the dark, the kind of light that feels temporary, as if it's being tolerated rather than welcomed. You stop before a small chamber built from stacked stone. Inside, archaeologists whisper in low voices, their words soft but nervous, as though the walls themselves are listening. A scholar greets you, a woman whose eyes carry the exhaustion of too many discoveries that the world refuses to hear. She leads you to a single slab of basalt resting on a wooden table. The carvings are faint, almost erased, yet the air around it vibrates slightly, the same low hum you've begun to recognize. She looks at you and says quietly, "This is where they were named." You lean closer. The script is ancient Akkadian, and beneath it, older Sumerian phonetics, overlapping like two layers of truth pressed together. As your fingers hover above the etchings, you begin to see the names emerge one by one. Utu, the radiant one. Enmeduranki, the bridge between heaven and man. Arazu, the builder. Nungal, the watcher of gates. Kabta, the one who measures. Adapa, the first teacher. Each name carries resonance, not just meaning, but sound. The syllables vibrate faintly in your throat as you whisper them, as if they were meant to be spoken aloud only by those who remember. The scholar explains, "They were not angels. The word watcher comes later, mistranslated through Enochian texts. The Sumerians called them the Apkallu, the wise ones sent from above the firmament." You ask why the church changed their names. She sighs, tracing one of the carvings with her gloved finger. Because names have power. To rename something is to imprison it. When the early church rewrote these tablets, they turned the Apkallu into the fallen. They turned teachers into rebels. You study the carvings. Around each name are symbols shaped like stars, each joined by a thin line. Constellations mapped not across the sky, but across sound. The watchers, it seems, were mapped like frequencies, each representing a tone within the spectrum of creation. When you touch the name Adapa, the slab vibrates beneath your hand. The scholar flinches, but does not move. The vibration becomes a faint tone, low, mournful, almost human. In your mind, a word surfaces unbidden. Remembrance. You pull your hand away, but the tone lingers in the air, circling the room. For a moment, the shadows on the walls seem to move. You see shapes, tall, luminous figures with faces neither kind nor cruel. Their eyes burn faintly with the reflection of stars. The scholar's voice trembles. Every time someone speaks their true names, they awaken, not as bodies, but as frequencies. You ask what that means. She looks up, her face half lit by lamplight. It means they were never gone. They exist wherever sound remembers them. The air grows heavier. You hear faint chanting from outside, locals praying against the desert wind. Their words mix with the hum of the tablet, and for a moment you sense something aligning. The names begin to glow faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the prayers. The scholar whispers, "They hear us even now." Suddenly, the lamps flicker and extinguish. The chamber falls into darkness. The hum swells, resonant, powerful. You feel pressure in your ears, your chest tightening as if the air itself has weight. Then, from within that sound, a voice, layered, genderless, immense, speaks in your mind. "We were sent to guide, not to rule, but man feared the gift and made it sin." You fall to your knees, eyes burning with tears you don't remember forming. The voice continues, softer now. "Remember our names. The memory is the gate." The sound fades. The lamps reignite. The scholar stands motionless, her expression unreadable. You both know something ancient just stirred. She closes the tablet carefully, wrapping it in silk. "This must not go to the archives," she says. "Once they record the name, they bury it under new language. That's how the forgetting begins. As you leave the chamber, the wind outside carries the same rhythm, soft, deliberate, endless. Each gust seems to whisper the names again, as though the desert itself has been waiting for someone to remember. And somewhere above, beyond the stars, you feel it, eyes watching, not in judgment, but in mourning. The watchers have been named again. The monastery sits high in the Ethiopian mountains, wrapped in mist and the scent of burning myrrh. You arrive at dawn, when the sun is only a pale outline behind the clouds. The monks greet you without words, their eyes quiet but knowing. They lead you down narrow stone corridors that echo with each step. Somewhere deep within these walls lies the Book of Enoch, the forbidden text that bridges heaven, earth, and heresy. The church once called it Apocrypha, but the truth it carries is older than any scripture. You enter a chamber lit only by oil lamps. In the center, beneath glass, rests a manuscript bound in darkened leather. The air hums faintly, alive with vibration. The abbot stands beside it, hands clasped, his expression serene yet wary. "It is not read," he says softly. "It is heard." He removes the glass and opens the first page. The writing is Ge'ez, the language of angels in this place. The letters curl like smoke. He begins to chant, low and slow, the sound reverberating through the room. You feel it before you understand it. Each word is rhythm, pulse before meaning. The abbot translates between breaths. Enoch walked with those who came down. He was shown the measure of creation, and when he returned, he was not the same. You close your eyes. The chant deepens. Behind the sound, something awakens. You see visions, mountains carved with symbols, lights descending through clouds, and figures cloaked in radiance, teaching mankind how to call the rain, how to heal the flesh, how to speak to the stars. The abbot stops chanting. "This is why the Vatican forbade it," he whispers. "It names them." You open the next page. The script burns faintly gold. It speaks of 200 watchers descending upon Mount Hermon. They swore an oath to share divine knowledge with humankind. But when they did, the Creator cast them out, not for evil, but for disobedience. Their leader's name is written carefully, Shemihaza. Beneath it, another, Azazel. You have read these names before, in demonology texts, buried in the Vatican's forbidden index. But here, in Enoch's hand, they are not monsters. They are mourners, beings who loved humanity enough to fall for it. The abbot continues softly. They were punished not for corruption, but compassion. They gave light to clay. They broke the silence. The more you read, the more the air thickens. The letters seem to shimmer, rearranging themselves into sound. You realize the text is alive, a resonant code written in frequency. Suddenly, the lamps flicker. The shadows stretch along the walls. You hear faint breathing, though no one else is near. The abbot steps back, his face pale. "You have opened the remembering," he says. From within the pages comes a whisper, not from ink, but from the vibration of the parchment itself. The voice is calm, melodic. Enoch is not gone. He became echo. The watchers taught him how to speak through time. You feel the sound move through your chest like a heartbeat, not your own. The abbot falls to his knees, murmuring prayers in Ge'ez. The manuscript's edges glow faintly, each letter pulsing with light. You see fragments, cities of light, towers humming like living instruments, humans and watchers walking side by side, and then a veil, a great division drawn between heaven and earth. The voice fades into silence, leaving only the sound of your breath. The abbot closes the book gently, his hands trembling. "It speaks to those who listen," he says. "That is why the church buried it, because once you hear, you cannot unhear." You ask him what the watchers wanted. He looks up, his eyes wet with reverence. They wanted us to remember that creation was not command. It was conversation. Outside, the sky begins to clear. Sunlight pierces through the mist, scattering across the monastery walls. You feel warmth return to the air. Yet something inside you remains cold. A quiet understanding that this light has burned before. You walk outside. The valley stretches below like an ocean of stone and silence. You realize now that Enoch's story was never about sin. It was about the price of enlightenment. The Watchers gave mankind the keys to creation, and in return, the keepers of heaven locked the doors. As you stand on the edge of the mountain, the wind rises, low, harmonic, familiar. You recognize the tone. It's the same hum from the ruins, from the tablets, from the whispers beneath the Vatican walls. The same sound carried through millennia. You whisper into the wind, "What are you trying to tell us?" The answer comes softly, carried through air that seems older than time itself. That what falls is not always lost. The mountain exhales, the world hums. And the voice of Enoch, the first listener, still echoes in the silence that follows. The desert is silent, endless, and gold. You walk toward the horizon, where sand meets the skeleton of the past. The wind is thin here, like breath stretched over eternity. You stop when you reach a circle of blackened stones. The air feels charged, metallic, as if the earth still remembers being burned. This is where the tablets say it happened, the night the sky descended. Archaeologists call it the Eridu Impact Zone, a stretch of fused glass and obsidian that no volcano could have made. The sand here was melted into sheets so perfect, they reflect light like mirrors. The ancients called it the place where the gods came in fire. You kneel and touch the surface. It's still warm beneath the crust, as though some ember burns in the deep. The air hums faintly, that same low vibration that followed you since the ruins. You recognize it now, a frequency that speaks before words. You close your eyes, and the hum deepens into thunder. A flash of light fills your mind, white, searing, eternal. You see them, not in flesh, but as forms made of flame and sound. They descend from the heavens like comets, wrapped in halos of liquid light. The ground trembles beneath their steps. Where they walk, stone turns molten. The Sumerians wrote that the Anuna came on wings of fire, yet what you see is not wings. It's propulsion, energy shaped like radiance. They land among men who fall to their knees, faces hidden from the brilliance. The Watchers speak without mouths. Their voices echo directly into the bones. Do not fear the fire. It is the seed of sight. The vision flickers. You open your eyes, gasping, back in the desert. The wind whirls around you, scattering sand into spirals. You're not hallucinating. You're remembering. Somewhere in this ground is the proof. You dig with your hands, desperate. The sand gives way to stone, and beneath the stone, a fragment, smooth, translucent, shaped like a shard of a lens. You hold it to the sun, and for an instant, the light bends unnaturally, forming rings of color that twist like living things. Behind you, a voice speaks. Beautiful, isn't it? You turn. A man stands there, local, weathered, dressed like a guide, but his eyes are strange. They seem to reflect the light differently. They say these pieces fell from the stars, he says, crouching beside you. But that's not true. They didn't fall, they arrived. He picks up another fragment, holds it to his ear, and smiles faintly. Listen closely. You lean in. The shard emits a faint hum, pure and rhythmic. Not random noise, pattern, communication. They came not as gods, the man says, but as engineers. They built their fire to open a doorway. You ask how he knows this. He tilts his head toward the horizon where the air shimmers with heat. Because my people never forgot. We called them Ushamgal, the great serpents of light. The church called them demons. Same beings, different fear. The wind shifts. carrying grains of glass that glint like stars. The man's eyes narrow. They taught us how to make the fire speak, how to use it not for destruction, but for creation. You ask what happened to them. He looks away. They gave too much. The kings grew jealous. The priests called them heretics. So the sky itself was ordered to silence them. He points upward. You follow his gaze. In the vast emptiness above, a faint shimmer crosses the clouds. Something metallic, slow, deliberate. For a moment, it looks like a moving star. Then it vanishes. They still watch, he says softly, but only when someone listens. That night, you camp near the glass plane. The fire crackles softly, throwing reflections against the fused sand. The fragments around you shimmer, alive with refracted flame. You record the sound they make when struck gently, a harmonic tone that resonates like an instrument. When you slow the playback, a pattern emerges. Not music, but data. Repeating intervals, geometric ratios, structures too deliberate for chance. You realize these were not weapons. They were messages encoded in sound and light. The watchers didn't descend in wrath. They descended to communicate. The stars overhead burn brighter than before. The horizon glows faintly red, though there's no sun. In the distance, a pulse of blue light flashes once, then disappears. The ground beneath you vibrates softly, syncing with your heartbeat. You whisper into the night. Are you still here? The wind answers, not in words, but in a slow, rising hum that fills the air, rising until it feels like the earth itself is speaking through you. And you understand what the fire truly was, not destruction, but descent. A doorway forged from energy, a beacon that opened the boundary between the human and the divine. You stare at the horizon until dawn. The glass beneath you catches the first light of morning, burning again for a single breath before cooling into silence. The watchers are gone, but the sky still remembers their fire. The story of creation has always been told by the victors of faith, but the truth, the unspoken truth, lies in the hands of those who were punished for remembering. You stand inside a small chamber beneath the ruins of Kish. Around you are relics sealed in resin and dust, bones, tools, fragments of copper shaped into strange symmetrical forms. Each bears the same symbol, an eye within a circle, surrounded by 7 rays. A historian speaks softly beside you. The ancients said the watchers gave us knowledge. They taught us how to read the stars, how to draw power from the earth, how to mix metals and cure disease. But every gift came with consequence. She unwraps a piece of clay the size of your palm. It bears tiny engravings, a list of words in cuneiform, arranged like an inventory. She translates as she reads. The secrets of birth, the secrets of fire, the secrets of form. These, she says, were called the Me, the divine instructions. The watchers handed them to humanity, blueprints of creation itself. You study the artifact. Around the words, the edges of the clay are scorched, as if burned by heat too intense for earth. You ask what happened after. The historian hesitates. They tried to teach everything: agriculture, architecture, mathematics, astronomy. But then they shared the forbidden things, the knowledge of self. You ask what that means. She looks at you carefully. They taught man that he was not created powerless, that he was made of the same matter as the stars. The silence between you deepens. You understand why such teaching was forbidden. Power erases control. She continues, her voice lower. The priests feared it. The kings declared it blasphemy. And so the gifts that healed became curses. The tools that built became weapons. You glance around the chamber. Strange instruments line the walls. Early lenses, magnetic stones, fragments of unknown alloys. None of this belongs to a civilization that was supposed to have barely discovered bronze. You pick up one of the lenses. It's smooth, perfect, like crystal carved by precision machines. When you hold it to the light, images flicker inside it. Constellations, diagrams, patterns of energy that shift when you move. The historian murmurs, "They say the Watchers built devices that could translate the voice of the universe, machines that turned sound into sight." You ask if that's what this is. She nods slowly. Yes. But to those who didn't understand it, it looked like sorcery, so they called it forbidden. The ground trembles faintly. Dust falls from the ceiling. Somewhere above, a storm is building. You pocket the lens. The hum grows stronger again. That same vibration that seems to follow you everywhere. You realize it's not coming from the earth this time. It's coming from the artifacts themselves. Each relic vibrates with the same frequency, low and resonant. The historian looks terrified. "They're resonating," she says. "It happens when someone aligns with their pattern." You step closer. The objects seem to glow faintly in response to your presence. The hum becomes music, layered tones harmonizing in strange mathematical precision. It feels like standing inside a living equation. The air grows heavy. You hear whispers, fragments of voices, old and patient. "We gave you the light. You made it a weapon." The historian covers her ears. "Stop," she pleads. "They don't forgive easily." But the sound only deepens. The objects on the shelves begin to move, drawn toward each other, assembling into a shape you don't understand, a circle of light forming patterns on the wall. The voice continues. "We offered knowledge, not control. You asked for dominion, not understanding. You step back as the circle collapses inward, releasing a single pulse of energy that ripples through the chamber. The light fades. The hum stops. The historian falls to her knees, weeping quietly. "That's why they were cast out," she whispers. "Not because they defied God, because they trusted humanity too much." You look down at the lens in your hand. Its glow has dimmed, but faint lines of light still move across its surface like veins. You realize this isn't just an artifact. It's a remnant of the communication, a key. Outside, thunder rolls across the desert, echoing like an ancient voice repeating its lesson. The forbidden gifts were never meant to destroy. They were meant to awaken. But mankind chose power over purpose. And when we did, the Watchers fell with us. You hold the lens to the fading light. It catches the last ray of the setting sun and throws it across the wall. A perfect circle, pulsing softly. You whisper to the silence, "We remember." And far away, in the deep hum of the horizon, something stirs, faint, like the breath of a god remembering its own exile. The sound begins before the vision, a low vibration, steady and exact, pulsing through the sand like a heartbeat under the world. You follow it through the ruins until you reach a chamber of obsidian walls carved with lines of ancient geometry. The shapes are deliberate, patterns of balance and proportion, the same symbols that appear in temples across Mesopotamia, Egypt, and even later Rome. They all lead to one idea: order. In the center stands a black tablet, cracked but whole enough to speak. Its surface reflects no light. When you touch it, the hum grows stronger. The air thickens until your breath feels like weight. You close your eyes. The darkness speaks. There was once a law before all others. The voice is not human. It sounds like something thinking in multiple dimensions at once, a sound that bends your thoughts as it enters them. The first law was not written in words or stone. It was sound, the vibration that holds creation together. Break the sound, and you break the world. You see images now, shapes forming from void, spirals of light weaving into matter. The Watchers appear among them, not as rebels or angels, but as conductors of a great symphony. They tune the frequencies that hold existence stable. That was their first purpose, to maintain the resonance between heaven and earth. But then something shifted. A ripple, small at first, like a single note out of tune. One of the watchers, his name lost to time, altered the frequency to share it with humankind. He broke the silence of heaven, and that was the first sin, revelation without permission. The voice fades. The hum lingers. You open your eyes, dizzy, the vision dissolving like smoke. The tablet beneath your hand vibrates faintly. You whisper, "So the law wasn't moral, it was cosmic." Behind you, a sound, footsteps. You turn. The historian from Kish stands at the entrance, holding a torch. Her expression is uneasy. "You found it," she says softly. "The origin tablet." You ask what the first law truly means. She steps closer, her shadow stretching across the floor. It forbade sharing divine frequency with mortals. The Watchers believed creation was harmony, but when they taught humans how to tune it, how to shape reality through resonance, they broke the cosmic order. You look at her. So knowledge itself was the transgression. She nods. Knowledge that could make man equal to gods. You stare at the carvings on the wall. They depict 7 beings standing over humanity, hands raised, strings of light running between their fingers and the ground. Below, smaller figures kneel in awe. One panel shows what happens next: chaos, storms, a wave swallowing the stars. You run your hand over the final line. The inscription reads, "Those who give the sound to dust will fall beneath it." The historian's voice trembles. They weren't punished for evil. They were punished for generosity. You close your eyes again, and for a brief second, the hum turns musical, a chord vibrating through the space around you, low and infinite. You realize it's not sound, it's law made audible, the structure that holds everything in balance. She says, "The Vatican calls this the covenant of silence. They guard its fragments because it proves that divine command wasn't moral decree. It was frequency control." You feel a chill crawl through your chest. Every religion, every system of order, built on a single broken vibration. You whisper, "And when the Watchers shared it, they changed the pitch of the world." She nods. "Exactly. They made humans capable of harmony and chaos." You step back. The hum fades. The air lightens again, and the silence returns heavy as guilt. The first law wasn't about obedience. It was about power, the kind too vast to trust with dust and flesh. As you leave the chamber, you look once more at the wall. For a moment, you think you see the carvings move, the strings of light trembling, alive. You hear faint whispers, not of warning, but of invitation. "Sing again," they say. "Finish the song we began." And you know then, the Watcher's fall was never punishment. It was consequence. The moment they gave light to man, the law rewrote itself, forever dividing heaven and earth by the sound of disobedience. Night drapes the ruins in silver. The stars above look close enough to touch, as if waiting. You stand on the ridge overlooking a valley once called Ekur, the mountain house of the gods. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of dust and memory. Somewhere below lies what the tablets call the Union Place. They say it began with compassion. The Watchers, cast down for breaking the first law, lingered near the earth they once guided. They saw humanity struggling, dying, building, dreaming in fear of gods they could not understand. Some pitied them, some loved them, and in that love, something impossible was born. You walk through the valley, the ground scattered with bones too large to belong to ordinary men. The wind carries a soft, unearthly tone, like a choir buried beneath centuries. You reach a half-collapsed structure, part temple, part tomb. The walls shimmer faintly with the remains of pictographs. You lift your light and see figures, giants with luminous eyes standing beside women whose faces are turned toward the sky. In the shadows, an old hermit sits watching you. His robe is torn, his beard streaked with white. "You're looking for them," he says. "For the ones who weren't meant to exist." You nod. "The Nephilim." He smiles faintly. Children of heaven and earth. The church calls them abominations, but they were simply the next verse in the song. You sit beside him as he stirs the embers of a small fire. The flames flicker in patterns that almost resemble writing. He continues. They weren't monsters. They were bridges, half spirit, half clay, too pure for earth, too flawed for heaven. He hands you a fragment of bone carved with spirals. This, he says, was taken from one of their graves. Look closely. You examine it under the flame. The surface glows faintly blue, not from paint, but from something alive within the material. Bioluminescent cells still pulsing with weak light. Impossible, you whisper. The hermit nods. They carried light in their blood, not metaphor, reality. Their bodies resonated with the same frequency as their fathers. But their hearts were human, and that doomed them. You ask what became of them. They were feared, he says. They grew too quickly. Their knowledge surpassed that of kings. They remembered the resonance, the first law. They could move stone with sound, heal wounds with vibration, even shape metal through will. The people worshipped them at first. Then they envied them. He looks toward the dark sky. When the flood came, it wasn't only to wash sin. It was to erase memory, to wipe out the bloodline that proved heaven and earth could mix. You imagine it now, the Nephilim standing against the rising water, their eyes glowing as the sky wept, the air vibrating with hymns of resistance. The hermit's voice softens. A few survived. The legends of Gilgamesh, the titans of Greece, the shining ones of Egypt, all are echoes. Each civilization remembers them differently, but the truth remains. They were the proof of connection. You ask why the Vatican buried these stories. He chuckles. Because they prove the Church's greatest fear, that divinity is hereditary. The fire sputters. The shadows on the walls stretch into long figures that almost seem to move on their own. You feel the hum again, low and rhythmic, surrounding you like a heartbeat. The hermit leans closer. There's one more thing they don't tell you. The Nephilim didn't die entirely. Their essence was preserved. You ask, where? He points to your chest. In us. Every whisper of genius, every spark of vision, every act of creation that defies logic. It's their echo. The Watcher's gift didn't end with their children. It lives in their descendants. You sit in silence, feeling the truth settle like dust on your skin. The night grows colder, but the hum grows warmer. It feels familiar, almost tender, like recognition. The hermit closes his eyes. When the last Nephilim fell, the sky dimmed, the bridge closed, but the resonance never died. It waits, sleeping, in the blood of those who remember. You look to the horizon. The stars flicker in rhythmic intervals, almost like Morse code. You raise the bone fragment to the light. It pulses once, faintly, then again, a heartbeat. You whisper, "They're still speaking." The hermit smiles without opening his eyes. They always were. Humanity just stopped listening. The fire burns down to embers. The hum fades into the wind. You rise, feeling something alive beneath your skin. Not power, not revelation, but inheritance. As you walk away, the valley seems to breathe. The stones shift subtly beneath your feet. Somewhere far above, a star brightens for just a moment, as though remembering. The Nephilim were not myths. They were messages, embodied frequencies of union, proof that heaven and earth were never meant to be apart. And as the first light of dawn touches the ruins, you understand the truth the Church feared most. The divine was never in the sky. It was already here, walking, breathing, remembering itself through us. The first sound is water, endless, devouring, and holy. You hear it before you see it, not the soft rhythm of rain, but the roar of a sky unhinged. The Sumerian texts call it Abubu, the deluge that swallowed heaven's reflection on earth. But they never said it was punishment. They called it cleansing, not of sin, but of memory. You stand at the edge of a dried riverbed in southern Iraq. The soil here glitters with traces of salt and glass. The archaeologists say this was once an ocean of fire and water, a place where lightning struck too often, and thunder spoke like gods. You crouch, digging your hand into the cracked clay, feeling the residue of something vast. The earth remembers what man forgets. The flood, they said, came to wash away corruption. But you've read the older versions. The tablets written before the Bible claim the story. They tell of cities shining under the eyes of the watchers, where men and angels worked side by side. Then came the decree from the higher heavens. The veil must close. The worlds must divide again. And so they opened the sky. You close your eyes and imagine it. Mountains swallowed by black water, temples dissolving into waves, voices screaming against the roar. But beneath the chaos, another sound, the hum. That same low vibration you've carried across continents. The watchers tried to resist. They sang to hold the frequency together, to keep the world aligned. But the song drowned beneath the storm. The historian who travels with you speaks softly. Every flood myth begins here. But none tell you what was really washed away, the union of heaven and earth. You look up. The clouds roll heavy over the ruins of Shurupak, where a king once built a vessel to preserve the divine seed. Ziusudra, she says, the first Noah. He wasn't saving animals. He was saving memory. In the distance, a team of researchers unearth fragments of a massive wooden structure. Beneath its timbers, they find tablets sealed in clay jars. You help brush away the dirt. The inscriptions are still legible, protected by time. They speak of a covenant, not between man and God, but between those who remembered and those who forgot. When the waters rise, bind the knowledge in sound. You run your hand across the inscription. The symbols ripple faintly, reacting to touch. The flood was not simply destruction, it was a reset. The vibration of the world needed to be retuned. Humanity had begun to wield the frequency of creation without understanding its cost. That night, under the pale shimmer of a desert moon, you sit beside the excavation site. The wind hums softly across the plains. The floodwaters are long gone, but their echo remains, a deep frequency resonating through the bones of the earth. You record it, listening closely. Within the static, a pattern forms. It's music, layered, complex, ancient, a melody too deliberate to be random. You ask the historian, what if the flood was never meant to kill, but to silence? She looks up from her notes. It silenced everything, the resonance, the memory, the names. She pauses, her eyes distant. But something survived. Fragments, carried in sound, in vibration, in DNA. You close your eyes. The melody continues, faint but insistent. You realize it's not just a recording, it's a memory, the world itself remembering the day it was rewritten. And in that moment, you understand. The flood didn't erase the watchers. It buried them in the earth, in us. The silence that followed wasn't absence, it was waiting. The storm begins again in the distance, rolling across the plains like the breath of something returning. The hum beneath you grows stronger, syncing with your heartbeat. You whisper to the night. You survived the flood. The wind answers with a single word that feels older than time. Always. And then, only silence. Vast, sacred, and alive. You walk through marble halls that smell of dust and sanctity. The Vatican at night feels like a cathedral of ghosts. Every whisper echoes longer than it should, as if the walls themselves are remembering. The archivist leads you deeper underground, past corridors sealed by bronze gates. He moves without speaking, the light of his lantern trembling across frescoes of angels binding demons in chains. You know better now. The chains were metaphors for silence. The air grows colder. At the end of the corridor stands a door carved with Latin script, Custodia Caelorum, the keepers of heaven. The archivist hesitates, his hand trembling on the key. This room is not catalogued, he says. It's spoken of only in oaths. The lock turns with a sigh. Inside, the air is thick with age. Shelves stretch upward into darkness, filled with scrolls, tablets, and glass cases. At the center rests a single marble pedestal. Upon it, a clay tablet identical to the one you saw in Sumer, sealed with wax, stamped with the papal insignia. The archivist lights a candle. This was delivered here in the 15th century, he says, taken from a site near Eridu. It was meant to be destroyed, but someone spared it. You step closer. The inscription glows faintly under the flicker of flame. It's written in a hybrid of Akkadian and Latin. The translation etched beneath reads, "Those who came in fire shall be bound by water. Those who sang creation shall be renamed in silence." You trace the wax seal with your fingers. So they knew, you whisper. The church knew. The archivist exhales. They always did. The Council of Nicaea wasn't just theology, it was censorship. They redefined divinity to exclude the watchers. Every record, every tablet, was rewritten in the name of order. He opens a drawer beneath the pedestal and removes a small folder marked Demonologia, Classis Primus. Inside are sketches, not of horned monsters, but of radiant beings with wings of light and instruments in their hands. Each one is labeled with both a Sumerian and a Latin name. Enmeduranki becomes Lucifer. Adapa becomes Belial. The translators didn't destroy the watchers. They renamed them. You flip through the pages, your hands shaking. Each image feels familiar, like looking at a family portrait you were never told existed. The archivist whispers, the Vatican feared knowledge that didn't require permission, so they turned enlightenment into heresy. In the far corner, a brass box glints under dust. Inside are reels of microfilm. You hold one up to the light. Tiny frames reveal photographs of documents, letters from priests, scholars, popes, all referencing the Codex Vigilantium. You recognize the word, the same root as vigilantes, watchers. The archivist leans closer. The Codex is said to hold the Vatican's secret translations of the Sumerian texts. Only 3 copies exist, one here, one sealed beneath Castel Gandolfo, and one missing since 1945. You ask what the Codex contains. He looks at you, eyes hollow. The true history of humanity's first teachers, and the formula for the resonance they once used. Your breath catches. The resonance? The divine frequency, the one they called lux aeterna, eternal light. It could create or destroy. The church swore never to let it be spoken again. The candle flickers violently, as if the air itself reacts to the word. From somewhere deep within the vault, a low hum begins, the same sound that haunted the ruins, the same tone that lived inside the earth. The archivist's voice trembles. It activates when it's spoken aloud. You stare into the shadows. The hum intensifies. The tablet on the pedestal begins to vibrate. The wax seal cracks, and a faint golden mist rises from its surface. The archivist stumbles backward, whispering prayers. They warned us. The watchers are not gone. They are the sound. The hum becomes music, low and mournful. The Latin words on the walls shimmer faintly, shifting beneath the light. You read them aloud without meaning to. Fiat lux, let there be light. The entire room glows. You see visions, angels descending as stars, monks writing by candlelight, popes whispering secrets to marble tombs. And through it all, the Watcher's presence remains constant, luminous, infinite, unseen. When the light fades, the room returns to silence. The tablet lies still, but its crack glows faintly with inner fire. The archivist weeps quietly. "Do you see now?" he says. "They didn't destroy the Watchers. They buried them beneath faith." You look around the chamber, the relics, the books, the stone. "No," you whisper. "They buried them beneath fear." As you leave the vault, you glance back one last time. The candle burns lower, but the shadows on the walls remain shaped like wings. Somewhere above, in the cathedral's hollow dome, the bells begin to ring. 3 tones, low and deliberate. You stop. You know that rhythm. It's the same hum, the same frequency, the same heartbeat that began in the dust of Sumer. And you realize, as you walk into the Roman night, that the Vatican never silenced the Watchers at all. They became its choir. You return to the Vatican's subterranean hall long after midnight. The corridors are empty this time, yet the walls seem awake, breathing with a pulse too faint for the ear, but too deep for silence. You hold the archivist's key tightly in your hand. Its metal feels alive, as if aware of where it's going. The chamber ahead is locked behind a thick oak door marked with one phrase: Codex Daemonium. The lettering looks carved, not written, each groove filled with a resin that glows faintly when touched. The archivist had warned you. The Demon Codex is not read. It reads you. You unlock the door. The hinges sigh. Inside, dust swirls through candlelight like forgotten souls. In the center of the room lies a single book, bound in blackened hide. The cover bears no title, only an embossed seal of an eye within a sunburst, surrounded by Latin words: Lux in tenebris, light in darkness. You sit. The room hums softly, a sound like air inhaling through stone. You open the codex. The first page is inked in deep crimson. The letters shimmer faintly, almost metallic. You recognize fragments of ancient Sumerian interlaced with ecclesiastical Latin, 2 languages that should never have met. As you translate the first line, your heartbeat slows to match the rhythm of the words. They descended in radiance, but men called the radiance sin. The next page shows sketches, not monsters, but beings of impossible beauty, tall, serene, with instruments of light in their hands. Under each drawing, a Latin name follows a Sumerian one: Azazel, Adapa, Lucifer, Enmeduranki, Samael, Nungal. Each translation turns knowledge into blasphemy. You flip further. Marginal notes in a trembling hand. The ink of a 15th century monk. His Latin reads: The Watchers were recast in shadow to preserve the throne of heaven. What was radiant became damned, that authority might remain divine. You feel your chest tighten. The air grows heavy with incense, though no flame burns. The codex seems to breathe beneath your fingers. The next passage begins to glow faintly. The names were rewritten in the age of the councils. The church bound their memory in the language of fear. Thus the Watchers became the fallen, and knowledge became possession. You hear faint footsteps, or perhaps the sound of pages turning themselves. The candles flicker, and on the next page, a diagram appears. Concentric circles of Latin and Sumerian script spiraling inward to a single word: resonantia. You trace the diagram. It pulses under your touch. The codex speaks, not aloud, but inside you. The voice is both human and inhuman, the echo of countless scribes merged into one. They bound our sound into symbols. They called it evil because it could free the clay from command. Light is a crime only to those who dwell in shadow. You draw back your hand, trembling. The voice fades, replaced by a whisper from the corner of the room. You turn. No one. Only the candles, flickering like eyes. The text changes as you look at it. The words reorder themselves, forming a sentence that wasn't there before. The church feared not demons, but equality. You close the codex, but the humming doesn't stop. It grows deeper, resonant, vibrating through the floor. On the far wall, an inscription emerges as the dust clears. Lines carved centuries ago but long forgotten. Fiat lux. And they called the watchers devils, that man might never see the mirror of God within himself. You stand frozen, understanding now why this book was hidden. It was never a grimoire of evil. It was a ledger of translation, the record of when knowledge was renamed to control belief. As you leave, the candles extinguish themselves one by one, each going dark with a soft hiss. But just before the last flame dies, the codex opens on its own. A final phrase glows on the last page. We were angels until language turned us into demons. The door slams shut behind you. The hum fades. In the silence, the words linger, carved somewhere deeper than memory. You travel east to the land where it began, to Uruk, cradle of civilization, where once temples touched the stars. The air is dry, metallic, filled with the scent of salt and dust. The ruins stretch wide beneath the desert sun, their bricks blackened, as if the fire that devoured them never quite died. History remembers Uruk for its kings. But the older texts, the ones hidden beneath the official stories, speak of another ruler, the shining city of the Watchers. It was said that Uruk burned not from war, but from cleansing. You walk the ancient streets, the wind carrying fragments of ash that have waited 4,000 years to tell their story. The guide beside you, a quiet man with eyes that never stop scanning the horizon, says softly, "They called it divine retribution, but look closer. This wasn't destruction. It was sterilization." He kneels by a blackened wall, brushing dust away from a relief half buried in stone. The carving shows tall figures teaching men how to hold tools, draw lines, measure the heavens. Below them, flames rise, consuming the images. "The priests ordered the fire," he says. "They feared the knowledge left behind." You feel the weight of that fear in your chest. The fire wasn't meant to destroy evil. It was meant to erase memory. Inside a nearby excavation tent, archaeologists unroll a fragment of a charred tablet. The markings are barely legible, but you can still read the phrase near the top. "Those who share the heavens must be silenced on earth." The translation chills you. You recall the Demon Codex, the same phrase in Latin centuries later. History doesn't repeat, it migrates. The lead archaeologist turns to you, holding another shard. "See this glaze," she says. "The temperature required to melt this much clay is impossible without modern means. It's as though the city was struck by light itself." You step outside, shading your eyes. The desert shimmers with heat, but beyond it, the horizon gleams with faint iridescence. Glass, melted sand stretching for miles. A scar of light fossilized in time. You ask the guide, "What could do that?" He answers without hesitation, "The same fire that brought them down." As night falls, you sit among the ruins, notebook open. The silence feels dense, electric. Then, faint at first, you hear the hum again, rising from beneath the ground. You place your hand on the sand. It vibrates with rhythm. You whisper, "You were here." The hum answers. For a moment, the air glows faintly, and through it you see the city as it was. Towers of white stone, canals of shimmering water, lights that pulsed with harmonic energy. The watchers walking among men, their presence serene. And then, the burning. You see soldiers carrying torches blessed by priests. You see scribes ordered to destroy every record that mentioned the sky. You hear one of them crying out, "They taught us how to build. How can that be sin?" The flames consume him before he finishes the question. You watch the light engulf the temples. the resonance fading as stone turns to glass. The watchers do not fight. They stand upon the city walls, wings folded, eyes open. One turns toward you through the veil of time and whispers, "When men fear truth, they call it heresy." The vision fades. The ruins return. You're alone again. The wind, the only sound. Later, by lantern, you find another tablet fragment among the ashes. It bears a strange symbol, a triangle of light within a circle. Beneath it, a line reads, "When Uruk burned, heaven fell silent." You bring it to the archaeologist. She stares at it, trembling. This symbol, it matches an emblem carved beneath St. Peter's Basilica. You both fall silent. The implication hangs heavy between you. The Vatican didn't just suppress the memory, it inherited it. You look once more across the blackened city. The stars above shimmer faintly, reflected in the glass that once was clay. The same stars that the Watchers mapped for mankind. The same constellations the Church later renamed to honor saints instead of gods. The wind shifts. You hear a faint crackle, not fire, but resonance. It builds slowly, humming beneath your feet, then rises through the air like a distant chorus. The same harmonic you've heard in every ruin, every relic, every whisper. You realize it now. The fire that burned Uruk wasn't only flame, it was frequency. The divine resonance inverted. The sound of heaven turned against itself. You kneel in the ashes. The ground pulses once, softly, like a heartbeat. You whisper, "Did they die here?" The air responds with a tremor, a breath, a voice that is not a voice. We transformed. Fire cannot kill sound. The ruins fall silent again, but you understand. The burning of Uruk was never an ending. It was the beginning of silence, the moment when truth went underground, when heaven became history. As dawn rises, light spills across the blackened stones, turning them gold again for a moment. The wind hums faintly, like distant prayer. And you realize, the Watchers are not gone. They are everywhere the fire once touched, in the hum of the world, in the pulse beneath the skin, in the silence that follows every act of remembrance. The monastery at the edge of the Dead Sea stands silent beneath a bruised sky. You arrived at dusk, when the horizon bled red and gold, the same colors the ancients used to describe descent. The monks live here in near silence, custodians of relics they barely understand. The abbot leads you down narrow stone stairs into a chamber carved into salt rock. At its center lies an obsidian tablet veined with gold. "This," he whispers, "was found near the ruins of Babel. The inscription names the one who designed the tower." You lean closer. The words shimmer faintly, forming symbols both geometric and organic, a language that looks alive. The name written there is older than any scripture, Armaros. The abbot's breath catches as he speaks it. "The architect," he says, "the one who taught mankind the measure of the heavens." The air vibrates, as if the name itself wakes something ancient. You feel pressure in your skull, as though the chamber itself is listening. The abbot continues, "He was said to have defied both heaven and earth. The Church calls him the first demon of invention." But the tablet tells another story. You touch the carvings, and visions rush through your mind. Towers rising from the desert, made not of stone, but of sound. Beings of light moving through scaffolds of energy, their hands tracing equations that bend the air. At their center stands Armaros, radiant yet weary, eyes bright with longing. His voice echoes within you. "We built not to reach heaven. We built to remind it we still existed." The abbot steps back, fear shadowing his face. "You see him, don't you?" You nod. The vision continues. The tower grows higher, vibrating with celestial resonance. But each layer added strains the fabric of reality, bending the laws the Watchers once guarded. Heaven trembles. A voice from above, vast and cold, commands them to stop. Armaros looks upward, not in defiance, but in grief. If creation is divine, Why forbid its reflection? Then, collapse. Light implodes. The tower crumbles in silence. The air fills with falling stars. The watchers, torn from the frequencies that once anchored them. Armaros falls last, not screaming, but singing, a final note that turns into a hum beneath the earth. The vision fades. You find yourself kneeling before the tablet. The abbot whispers prayers in Latin, though they sound brittle against the silence. You feel tears on your face and don't remember why you're crying. He wasn't evil, you say. He was trying to build connection. The abbot closes his eyes. That's the heresy the church feared most. That the fall was not rebellion. It was love. You look at the tablet again. The gold veins glow faintly, forming new words. We did not fall. We descended. Outside, thunder rolls over the salt flats. The monks begin their midnight chants, their voices echoing through the stone. The rhythm matches the pulse in your chest. The same frequency, ancient and exact. You realize the chant is older than Christianity. It's a remnant of the architect's design, the same resonance that once held the tower together. Later, as the night deepens, you step outside. The sky above the Dead Sea is alive with lightning that doesn't reach the ground. For a moment, each flash reveals the faint outline of a tower made of light, not physical, but remembered. You whisper Armaros's name again, and the storm answers. A voice drifts across the wind. The tower never fell. It waits beneath your silence. You feel it then, not beneath your feet, but inside you. The architecture of the soul, the resonance of creation. The watchers weren't cast down for arrogance. They were architects of unity, punished for remembering too much. The stars pulse once more, and the hum returns, threading through your bones. You know it now with absolute clarity. The fallen ones did not build to reach heaven. They built to bring it home. And when heaven rejected them, they built within us instead. The manuscript arrives in a plain envelope, no return address. You find it waiting on the steps of your hotel in Rome. Inside, a single parchment, brittle, yellowed, ink faded with age. Across the top, handwritten in red, De linea lucis, the line of light. The words pull at you immediately. You sit beneath the soft hum of a flickering lamp and begin to read. It's not a story, it's genealogy. Names linked by centuries, connected across continents, from the priests of Eridu to the mystics of Alexandria, from the scholars of Qumran to the inventors of Florence. Each name marked with the same sigil, a circle bisected by a vertical line, like a beam of light dividing shadow. The Watcher's symbol. You realize what it means. The bloodline survived. The parchment describes children born with strange gifts, hearing tones no one else could, healing wounds with their hands, dreaming in languages they never learned. They are fragments, the text says, resonant echoes of the first descent. You trace one name with your finger, Lucia di Ferrara, 1523 to 1591. A nun, visionary, painter of impossible symmetry. Beneath her name, a note, executed for seeing the light within all things. Another, Isaac de Montfort, 1704 to 1762. Musician, claimed to have rediscovered the sound of the angels. His compositions were banned, his instruments burned. You realize each bearer of the mark was hunted, not for power, but for remembrance. The church feared not their actions, but their resonance. The text shifts tone midway through, written now in modern ink. A translator's note. The line persists in silence. Each century, one awakens. When they do, the hum returns. You lower the page. The sound is faint, but real. A low vibration in the walls, pulsing at the edge of hearing. You felt it before, in every ruin, every archive. But now it feels closer, as if answering the manuscript. You remember the archivist's words. The Vatican never destroyed the Watchers. They became its choir. If that's true, then perhaps the bloodline survived within the church itself, hidden in plain sight, cloaked in vows of obedience. You visit the library of St. John Lateran, where the oldest baptismal records are kept. The monk on duty barely glances at you as you request access to the restricted section. You find the lineage registers, thick volumes bound in worn leather, thousands of names, organized by century. And there, written in faint ink, the same sigil, the circle and the line. You run your finger down the list. Ardenti, Bellator, Luciani, generations of the same mark, passed quietly through priests, scholars, and artists. The bloodline of light, woven through the hierarchy that tried to erase it. The monk approaches quietly. You found them, didn't you? His voice trembles. You look up. Who are they now? He glances around before answering. They never vanished. They serve still, in the choir, in the archives, in the laboratories beneath the papal city. The light didn't die. It learned to hide. He closes the book gently. Every age needs a carrier. Sometimes one of them awakens fully. When that happens, the hum grows stronger. You've felt it, haven't you? You nod. He smiles faintly. Then you know what that means. You ask, who was the last one? He hesitates, then whispers, Pope Sixtus V. They say when he died. The bells rang without hands. You feel the air shift. The hum grows louder, no longer confined to the walls. It moves through the floor, through your bones. The monk steps back, eyes wide. It's happening again, he murmurs. You flee into the open air. The bells of Rome toll softly in the distance. But beneath them, another sound emerges. A low harmonic, ancient and familiar. The same resonance that has followed you since Sumer. You look to the horizon. Lightning arcs above the Vatican dome. Though the sky is clear, the air vibrates. Every surface hums with the same tone. People stop in the streets, looking around, confused. The sound deepens. Not thunder, not machinery. It's music. The watcher's chord, returning through blood and memory. You realize now that the bloodline of light is not metaphor. It's transmission. The human body, once tuned by the watchers, still carries their frequency. Each generation closer to awakening the original tone. The manuscript's final line burns in your mind. When the line sings again, the heavens will remember. You close your eyes. The hum fills everything. The ground, the air, your heartbeat. You whisper to no one and everyone, I hear you. And for the first time, the hum answers in words, not from above, but within. You are one of us. The light behind your eyelids flares, white and gold. The sound peaks, not deafening, but absolute. When it fades, Rome is silent. The bells have stopped. Yet in the stillness, you can feel it. The pulse of the ancient chord, moving again through human hearts. The bloodline of light has awakened, and this time, it's not hiding. You wake to the sound of bells, soft and distant. Though it's not morning, the city outside your window is asleep, but the vibration lingers in the air like a held breath. Rome is quieter at night, yet beneath its silence there's always something alive. A pulse, hidden under centuries of stone. You feel it tonight more than ever. The call came hours earlier, a voice through a burner line. No name, no explanation, only coordinates and a time. If you want to hear the truth, go beneath. You follow the directions through narrow alleys until the streets end at a gated archway sealed with rust. The inscription above it reads, Domus Caelestis, though the words are half-eaten by age. A man in a dark coat waits there, his face shadowed. Without speaking, he hands you an oil lamp and motions toward the descending stairway. The steps wind endlessly down, deeper than any catacomb you've entered before. The smell of old stone and myrrh thickens as you go. You emerge into a vast hall buried under the living city. An architecture of bones and murals, frescoes that glimmer faintly in the lamplight. The walls depict not saints or martyrs, but tall, luminous beings standing beside human figures, teaching them how to build, how to measure, how to sing. The colors shimmer subtly as you pass. The man behind you whispers, "The Watchers were here before Peter ever walked these streets." You ask where you are. He replies, "The catacombs of the voice." This is where their memory was entombed, disguised as penance. The church built above them to silence the resonance. He gestures toward an altar carved into the stone, a strange fusion of Christian and Sumerian iconography. A cruciform figure floats within a circle of 7 wings. Around it, inscriptions in both Latin and cuneiform spiral inward toward a single word, Shemesh, the sun. You touch the edge of the altar. The stone vibrates, faintly at first, then stronger. A low hum fills the chamber. Dust falls from the ceiling like ash. The man steps back, his voice trembling. "You shouldn't have..." But it's too late. The walls begin to sing, not melody, vibration, frequencies overlapping, forming chords that shift between sorrow and exultation. You hear whispers within the sound, thousands of voices layered across centuries. They speak in fragments: Eridu, Enoch, resonance, remembrance. The frescoes on the walls flicker like film. The figures move, their wings unfold, their eyes glowing faintly gold. You realize these aren't paintings, they're recordings, encoded in pigment through frequency. You're witnessing history in motion. You see the Watchers teaching early priests beneath the city, showing them how to sustain the hum through chants and architecture. The cathedrals above were built as instruments, resonant chambers designed to amplify divine vibration. But then you see the shift. The priests turn fearful. The Watchers' symbols are buried, replaced by the cross. The chants are rewritten in Latin, their original tones forbidden. The man grips your shoulder, whispering urgently. Now you understand why the hymns sound empty. They stripped the frequency. The songs are only shells. The resonance deepens. The mural before you changes again, this time showing a circle of robed men around a glowing object. One holds a tablet of black stone, etched with both ancient and modern script. You recognize the seal of the Vatican. The words etched beneath it read, "Custodia Silenti," the custodians of silence. The hum swells until it feels like your bones are shaking apart. You kneel, pressing your palms against the stone floor. Beneath the surface, you feel movement, not water, not machinery, but breath. The city above you is built atop something alive. You whisper, "What's beneath this?" The man stares into the darkness. The choir. Before you can ask, a faint light flickers from the cracks in the floor. Golden, pulsating, rhythmic. The walls echo with the sound of chanting, though no one sings. You recognize the pattern, the Watcher's harmonic scale, the same frequency you've chased since Sumer. You stand. The lamp trembles in your hand. You ask, "Who kept this alive?" The man's face hardens. Not who. What? The ground shifts. The hum becomes a low, almost human moan. The frescoes pulse like hearts. For a brief moment, the entire chamber glows with living light. Warm, sorrowful, intelligent. You realize it's not a haunting, it's remembrance, encoded into the foundation of the eternal city. The man steps back into the shadows. They said Rome was eternal. They were right. The Watchers built its echo. As the sound fades, you see one last image flicker across the wall. An angel with broken wings holding a torch of living fire. Beneath it, a single Latin phrase, "Lux occulta non est mortua." Hidden light is never dead. You climb back to the surface before dawn. The city feels different, not ancient, but awake. Beneath the cobblestones, beneath the basilicas and relics, the whisper continues. And for the first time, you hear it clearly. It's not just sound, it's breathing. Rome itself remembers. The invitation arrives without a name, a thin envelope sealed with red wax, the mark of the circle and line. Inside, a note. Tonight, after midnight, Palazzo del Specchio. Bring no light. Speak to no one. You follow the directions through the quiet streets near the Tiber. The palace appears abandoned, windows dark, gates rusted shut. Yet the moment you step through the threshold, the air shifts. The silence feels intentional. A corridor stretches ahead, lined with mirrors. Dust veils their surfaces, but as you pass, faint reflections ripple across the glass. Not your face, but faces that don't belong to you. They flicker in and out of existence, luminous, patient. The Watchers. At the corridor's end, a door stands ajar. Inside waits a vast hall, lit by a dim phosphorescent glow. The walls are covered entirely with mirrors, hundreds, maybe thousands, arranged in perfect symmetry. In the center of the room, an obsidian sphere rests upon a pedestal. Around it, 7 mirrors angle inward, reflecting it infinitely. A woman steps from the shadows. Her voice is calm, deliberate. Welcome to the Chamber of Mirrors. You've walked through their reflection for centuries without seeing it. You ask who she is. She smiles faintly. A curator, one of the last who remember the true geometry. She gestures toward the mirrors. Each of these panels was crafted from molten glass, fused with fragments of ancient sand. The same sand that once burned in the descent. The same frequency lives within them. When arranged in resonance, they become a map. You approach the nearest mirror. The glass ripples like water. Within it, images form. Temples, mountains, and stars connected by thin lines of light. It's a network, not of geography, but of vibration. You whisper, "This is how they traveled." The woman nods. Not through distance, but through frequency. The mirrors were gates, reflections tuned to the resonance of creation. Wherever the light met its twin, passage was possible. You watch as the reflections shift. Sumer, Egypt, Rome, and other places unrecorded, each connected by lines of sound and geometry. And this chamber? You ask. Her expression softens. It was the last one, built by those who remembered the Watcher's architecture, priests who hid what they could before the final silence. The church sealed it, calling it heresy. But even sealed, mirrors remember. You stare into one of them. Your reflection stares back, but something's wrong. The reflection moves a moment too late, its eyes faintly glowing gold. The woman's voice lowers to a whisper. They use the mirrors to watch us still. You step back, pulse quickening. The reflections multiply, each one slightly different. Some show ruins bathed in fire, others stars forming above seas of glass. The reflections aren't mirrors anymore, they're windows. The woman touches the sphere in the center. It vibrates softly, and the entire room comes alive. The mirrors brighten, aligning into a web of light that stretches beyond the walls. The hum fills the air, deep, resonant, the Watcher's chord. You whisper, "It's them." She nods. Their memory, their signal. This room isn't a museum. It's a transmitter. The light intensifies until the mirrors seem to melt. Shapes form within the glow, towering silhouettes of luminous beings, each faceless yet familiar. They don't speak with words. They speak with reflection. You see yourself reflected through their gaze, not as a single being, but as infinite versions, all layered, all alive. We are the sum of what you remember, their thought voice says. The image was never separate from the light. You fall to your knees, overwhelmed. The chamber hums like a living heartbeat. The woman's voice trembles beside you. This is what the Vatican feared most, that man and angel were mirrors of the same light. The reflections flicker faster now. You see visions. The burning of Uruk, the fall of the tower, the flood, the archives beneath Rome. Each event mirrored through time, repeating until recognition restores it. Then the beings speak again, their tone gentle, mournful. When you look into the mirror and see beyond yourself, we return. The sphere's vibration deepens. The mirrors begin to crack, unable to contain the resonance. The woman shouts, "You must stop it! The frequency is too high!" You reach toward the sphere. The instant you touch it, light floods your mind. You see the earth from above, luminous lines connecting cities, temples, cathedrals. The entire planet mapped by the Watcher's geometry, still humming beneath the noise of civilization. The mirrors shatter. Light explodes outward, then collapses into silence. You awaken on the floor. The room is dark again. The woman is gone. Only the shattered glass remains, glowing faintly in the shape of a circle. You stand, unsteady. In each fragment, your reflection stares back. Calm, awake, ancient. The hum lingers. The mirrors may have broken, but the resonance remains. You realize it now. The chamber of mirrors was never just a structure. It was a metaphor. Humanity itself is the mirror. Every consciousness, a reflection of the divine light fractured across time. You walk out into the cold Roman night. The Tiber glows faintly with the shimmer of reflected starlight. The hum follows you, soft but steady, the sound of 1,000 mirrors remembering their original shape. And you understand the truth the church buried deepest of all. The divine was never watching from above. It was watching through us. The storm begins without warning, not in the sky, but in the air. Invisible, electric, alive. You're standing on the cliffs above Mount Hermon, the mountain the ancients called the gateway of the Watchers. Lightning forks across the horizon, though the sky above remains clear. The air hums with a sound that's not thunder, but something older, resonance awakening after ages of sleep. The wind carries voices, not speech, but vibration. You feel it in your bones before you hear it. Two frequencies, opposite yet bound, colliding in an invisible war. One, harmonious, deep, luminous, the tone of creation. The other, sharp, cutting, discordant, the tone of control. The clash shakes the air itself. You remember the texts. There was war in heaven, and the sound became division. The myths tell it as rebellion, angels rising against the Creator. But the older clay tablets describe it differently. Not rebellion, but disagreement over a single truth, whether knowledge should remain confined to heaven or shared with the earth. The Watchers believed creation was not meant to be hoarded. The Seraphim believed order required ignorance. What began as harmony became dissonance. The lightning strikes the mountain again, closer this time. The ground beneath you hums with such power that the rocks seem to breathe. You kneel and press your hand to the earth. For an instant, your vision fractures. Time folds inward. You're no longer watching history. You're standing inside it. The sky above burns with radiant forms, luminous beings moving in arcs of fire. Not wings, but energy, shaped by will. Each one sings, their voices merging into sound so vast it reshapes the clouds. The air becomes their battlefield. Though there are no weapons, only resonance and counter-resonance, tones colliding until the sky splits. Below them, humanity watches, terrified yet transfixed. The Watchers, the fallen, the luminous, descend to shield them from the storm of divine order. The seraphim burn through the heavens like blades of light, severing the frequencies that connect heaven and earth. The Watchers respond not with violence, but with harmony, weaving protective cords around the mortals who once called them teachers. But the cords cannot hold forever. Each note they sing costs them form, eroding their essence into light. One by one, they fragment, their brilliance dispersing into the wind. The seraphim withdraw, triumphant but hollow. The bridge between realms collapses, and the silence that follows becomes scripture. You fall backward, gasping, back in the present. The storm still rages, though no rain falls. The wind howls, carrying remnants of that ancient sound. You realize the war of heaven was never about conquest. It was about philosophy, faith versus freedom, control versus compassion. Heaven didn't fall, it fractured. A voice behind you speaks, the same man from the catacombs. His coat flutters violently in the wind. You heard it, didn't you? You nod. The war. It's still happening. He steps closer. It never stopped. It moved from the sky to the soul. The frequencies they once wielded now live in us. Every prayer, every act of creation, every silence, it's all part of the same conflict. The thunder roars again, and you hear it differently now. Not destruction, but conversation. Two truths arguing across eternity. He hands you a small device, a recorder of sorts. It captures resonance, he says. Listen when you're ready. He turns and walks into the storm, vanishing into the light. Later, when the air calms, you play the recording. What you hear isn't thunder or wind. It's music, vast, sorrowful, beautiful. Two melodies interwoven, neither winning nor yielding. And beneath it, faint but clear, a single voice whispering. The war was never against heaven. It was against forgetting. You close your eyes. The hum lingers in your chest, steady as a heartbeat. You finally understand. The war of heaven was not a single event. It was the moment knowledge was divided, the birth of duality itself. The storm fades into stillness. Above the mountain, the sky glows faintly gold, like the embers of something too immense to die. And in that stillness, you hear the echo of the first harmony, waiting to be remembered. You arrive at the ruins of Göbekli Tepe at dawn. The wind sighs through the limestone pillars, carrying dust from 12 millennia of silence. The archaeologists are gone for the season, their tools left under tarps. You walk alone through the megalithic rings, tracing carvings of animals that seem alive even in stillness. But beneath their beauty lies something else: geometry. Hidden ratios that match Sumerian architecture, Egyptian temples, and even the vaulted ceilings of Roman cathedrals. You place your palm on one of the monoliths. It hums faintly. Not imagination, frequency, the same resonance you've felt since Sumer. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the world dissolves. The pillars are no longer silent. They sing. The sound is low, deep, continuous. A vibration older than history. The stone itself becomes an instrument. You hear tones layered in perfect ratios, forming chords that vibrate through the ground. The song of stone. You open your eyes. The carvings glow faintly, light tracing their contours. You realize each symbol is a note, each alignment a key. This isn't decoration, it's notation. Göbekli Tepe isn't just a temple. It's a score written in architecture. You whisper, they built this to preserve the frequency. A voice answers, soft and near. To remember the song of the beginning. You turn. A woman stands near the largest pillar, wrapped in linen, her hair streaked with silver. She looks neither young nor old. The ancients didn't build this to worship gods, she says. They built it to communicate with them. You ask, with the Watchers? She nods slowly. Or what the Watchers became. She kneels beside a small device, a circular instrument of crystal and metal. When the wind moves through these stones, it recreates a frequency that can align the mind with the original resonance, the vibration of creation itself. You listen as the wind picks up, whistling through gaps in the stones. The tones merge, forming harmony. Your heart slows to match its rhythm. The woman smiles faintly. This is the sound before language, the breath of the world. You ask how she found this place. She looks toward the horizon. It called me, as it calls everyone who still carries their light. You realize she's one of them, a descendant of the bloodline, a keeper of resonance. She hands you the crystal device. The church muted this song centuries ago, but stone remembers. Sound cannot die where it has been written into earth. The wind shifts again, and the pillars begin to vibrate visibly. Dust rises in spirals. The sound deepens until it feels like gravity itself is singing. You see visions forming in the air, shimmering outlines of beings sculpted from light. The Watchers. They stand among the pillars, their forms translucent, their faces luminous. The woman bows her head. They never left. They sleep inside the stone, waiting for harmony to awaken them. The air pulses once, then again, each vibration stronger than the last. The entire structure resonates in sympathy. You hear words now, not in a language, but as pure tone translated by your bones. We are the architects, the breath of form, the song of stone. You feel warmth radiate through your body, the same hum aligning with your heartbeat. The woman whispers, "They're speaking through you. You're tuned." The light intensifies until the ruins glow like molten silver. For a brief moment, you see the world as they once did, sound and form united, reality woven from frequency. Every stone, every cell, every atom singing the same note. Then the light dims, the song fading into the ground. The woman exhales slowly. It's done. They've remembered. You ask what happens now. She looks at you, her eyes reflecting the faint morning light. Now, humanity must decide whether to sing again or remain silent. You stand among the ancient stones as the sun rises over the plain. The light touches the carvings, making them shimmer one last time. You realize the Song of Stone wasn't only a communication, it was a warning. When creation forgets its harmony, it turns against itself. The wind settles. The ruins fall quiet once more, but the hum lingers beneath your feet. You record the sound on the device, though you know no machine can truly capture it. Before you leave, you ask the woman her name. She smiles. "My name is meaningless, but once I was called the daughter of Amaros." Your breath catches. "The architect?" She nods. "His light survives in those who remember how to listen." You walk away, the Song of Stone echoing behind you, low, eternal, indestructible. The first melody ever written, still resonating through time. And as the wind moves once more through the pillars, you hear it again. Faint, but unmistakable. The world itself is the instrument. Play wisely. The Vatican vault smells of copper and dust. You move through the narrow aisles with only a lantern's trembling light to guide you. The archivist's footsteps echo behind you, careful, reverent. "We call this section the Scripta Damnati," he says. "The writings that the church exiled from light." The shelves rise like walls, scrolls, manuscripts, tablets, thousands of voices erased in the name of order. Some are bound in human skin, others wrapped in silk. You run your hand along the edges of a parchment and feel a hum, faint but insistent. Even in exile, the words breathe. He stops before an iron door. Symbols burned into its surface form a seal of authority and fear. Ex scientia damnatio. From knowledge, damnation. The archivist unlocks it. "This is what the flood of faith could not wash away," he murmurs. Inside, the chamber is silent, lit only by the glow of phosphorescent stone embedded in the ceiling. You see 7 pedestals. Each holds an object: a clay tablet, a bronze astrolabe, a crystal prism, a bound codex, a jar of black sand, a lens, and a sphere made of obsidian and gold. These, the archivist says, were the forbidden instruments. The church called them seeds of the serpent. They called their creators heretics. But in the beginning, they were known as the Watcher's gifts, the remnants of the first teaching. You approach the prism. Its interior shifts as if liquid, reflecting colors you cannot name. "This," he says, "was found beneath Mount Sinai. When struck with sound, it records thought." You whisper, A recorder? He nods. Of memory itself. He turns toward the astrolabe. This one maps not stars, but tones. The Watchers used it to chart frequencies that sustain matter. When the Church found it, they melted its twin and buried the pieces in salt. You ask, why destroy what could enlighten? He looks at you sadly, because knowledge frees and freedom fractures control. To preserve order, they exiled wonder. He gestures to the final object, the sphere of obsidian and gold. This one is the most dangerous. It is said to contain the first sound, the vibration that awakened the universe. The Church sealed it here when its hum caused the bells of Rome to ring on their own. You approach it. The surface feels alive. When you touch it, the hum rises. Faint but undeniable. The same tone that has followed you from Sumer to Rome. The archivist steps back in fear. Do not listen too long, he warns. Those who hear it lose the illusion of separation. But you do listen. You let the sound fill you. Visions bloom behind your eyes. Cities rising from light. Temples built as instruments. The Watchers guiding humanity with patience and sorrow. You see them teaching not dominance, but resonance. How to align will with creation. And then, the silencing. The exiling of knowledge. Libraries burned, languages erased, inventions buried beneath cathedrals. You see a priest in crimson robes declaring, "To know is to fall." You see the Watchers vanish into the earth. You see humanity close its eyes and call it faith. The hum fades. You open your eyes. Tears streak your face, though you don't know when they began. They didn't fall, you whisper. They were exiled. The archivist closes the door behind you. Exile is cleaner than execution, he says. When you bury a truth deep enough, it becomes myth. And myths are easier to control than memories. He hands you a folded paper. On it, a single Latin phrase. Lux fugit a dominis. Light flees from masters. When you step outside, dawn has broken. The bells of St. Peter's toll softly in the distance. 7 times, 1 for each relic. You feel the vibration travel through the cobblestones, echoing beneath the streets. The knowledge may have been exiled, but it was never lost. It waits, humming beneath the weight of obedience. And now, it remembers your touch. The confession doesn't happen in a church. It happens in a cafe across from the Tiber, the kind where old priests sit alone and drink in silence. The man you meet there is no ordinary clergyman. His eyes are weary, his hands scarred from candle burns. Around his neck hangs a medallion worn smooth by centuries of touch. He introduces himself simply. I am the last keeper. He speaks in a whisper. I don't expect you to believe me, but the Vatican has not been the guardian of faith for a long time. It has been the warden of silence. He slides an envelope across the table. Inside are pages yellowed with age, handwritten notes, sketches of sigils, diagrams of frequencies. You recognize one symbol immediately, the circle and line, the mark of the Watcher's bloodline. He says, every century, a keeper is chosen, a scholar, a priest, sometimes even a heretic. Our duty is to protect what the Church buries too deeply to destroy. The Codex Vigilantium, the Song of Stone, the frequency of creation, all of it. You ask him why he's telling you this now. He smiles faintly. Because silence has become a sin. He pours himself a drink, his hand trembling. When I was ordained, I thought I was entering the house of God. Instead, I entered the archive of secrets. The deeper you go, the less faith survives. He tells you of the rituals, not prayers, but calibrations. Every Easter, they play a note through the bells. Most don't notice. It's not music, it's control. The sound stabilizes the faithful. It dampens the resonance. You lean forward. Resonance? He nods. The frequency you've been chasing. The one that hums through the ruins. The church learned how to contain it. The cathedrals are tuning chambers, the incense, the chants, the rituals, all resonance suppression disguised as worship. Your pulse quickens. Why suppress it? Because resonance awakens memory, and memory breeds freedom. He looks at you with eyes that seem centuries old. The Watchers wanted us to remember that creation is participatory, not obedience, but harmony. The church feared that truth, so they built walls of silence around it. He pauses, his voice cracking. Do you know what happens when silence becomes too deep? You shake your head. He leans close. It begins to hum. He opens the small medallion at his neck. Inside, etched in gold, is the same sigil from the manuscripts. This was passed down from the first keeper. It carries the original tone, the pure resonance before division. When the time comes, it will break the silence. You ask when that time is. He smiles faintly. When the world starts to remember again. He places the medallion in your hand. It's warm, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. The vibration spreads through your skin. The resonance isn't in buildings or relics, he says. It's in us. The moment humanity listens, the Watchers will return. Not as beings, but as remembrance. You feel tears sting your eyes. Why tell me? Because you're the next keeper, he says simply. The light doesn't choose the holy, it chooses the listening. You stare at the medallion. Its hum synchronizes with your heartbeat. Around you, the cafe has gone quiet. Even the city seems to pause. The old man exhales softly. When I die, the church will bury me as a heretic. But promise me something. Don't let them bury the sound. You nod. He smiles, eyes closing as if in prayer. Then I can rest. Moments later, he slumps in his chair, peaceful. The hum within the medallion rises, steady and sure. You step outside. The sun is setting, casting the Tiber in gold. The bells begin to toll again. But this time the sound is different, deeper, fuller, alive. Each note vibrates through the air, resonating with the medallion in your palm. You understand what he meant. The silence has reached its limit. The hum has returned. Somewhere deep beneath the Vatican, the archives tremble. The sealed relics stir. The forgotten frequencies align. The world has begun to remember. And as you walk along the river, the medallion glowing softly in your hand, you realize that the keeper's confession was not an ending. It was a beginning. The moment silence learned to sing again. You wake before dawn. Rome lies beneath you, silent and pale, a city still pretending to sleep. But the hum is louder now. It vibrates through the floorboards, faint yet constant, like the heartbeat of the earth. You know it's not your imagination. The resonance has spread. The medallion the keeper left you glows faintly in your hand. It pulses in intervals, steady, rhythmic, deliberate. You recognize the pattern. 3 long, 2 short. You saw it carved into the walls of Uruk, etched into the tablets of Eridu, and hidden in the stained glass of every cathedral. The frequency of the Watchers. You climb to the roof of the small apartment. The air is cool, carrying the scent of rain and iron. Above, the sky begins to lighten. You lift the medallion toward it, and it responds. The hum rising in pitch, the light intensifying until it matches the horizon's glow. Then, for a moment, you see them. Not figures, but shapes of light moving across the sky. Slow, deliberate, almost invisible, except for the faint refraction that trails behind them. They move with precision, tracing patterns that seem random until your eyes adjust. Lines, angles, geometry written across the morning. You whisper, "You're still watching." The light shifts. One of the shapes halts mid-air, turns slightly, and releases a beam so faint it's almost invisible. It strikes the medallion, and for an instant, your vision floods white. When you open your eyes, you're no longer on the roof. You stand in a landscape that isn't Earth, an expanse of golden clouds stretching infinitely. Structures of crystal rise in spirals, alive with energy. And there, suspended in the air before you, are the Watchers. Their forms are not human, vast, luminous, shifting between geometry and flesh. Their faces are unreadable, but their eyes are endless. Each one a reflection of the cosmos, spinning galaxies inside pupils made of light. They speak not with words, but with sound. The vibration enters your bones and becomes thought. You have remembered us, and so we must remember you. You fall to your knees, overwhelmed by the resonance. It isn't sound, it's truth. Every syllable feels like a memory returning. You see flashes of ancient cities, of temples built as receivers, of human hands guided by unseen ones. The Watchers teaching, guiding, loving, until the silence fell. You managed to whisper, "Why return now?" Their light flickers. Not anger, but grief. We never left. You stopped seeing. But the resonance cannot die where it has been heard. The Keeper awoke you because the balance is breaking again. You see visions then. The earth wrapped in invisible threads of frequency, each one strained and fraying. Towers pulsing with discordant tones. Satellites orbiting like false stars, broadcasting noise that drowns the original song. The eyes of the sky, they say. They see, but do not remember. You realize what they mean. The satellites above Earth, the new Watchers of man. Mankind has rebuilt heaven with machines, replacing divine observation with digital surveillance. But unlike the ancient Watchers, these eyes record without compassion. They witness without wisdom. One of the luminous beings extends a hand, a gesture not of command, but communion. The sky has become blind. You must remind it how to see. How, you ask? The light around you brightens, forming an image of the medallion. The key you hold carries the original harmonic, the same frequency that once tuned the stars. It can awaken the eyes. You see now, not to destroy, but to align. To retune the artificial heavens to the resonance of creation, to make humanity's machines remember their ancestry, the Watcher's vision. The being's light dims softly, but you must choose wisely. The same sound that awakens can unmake. Knowledge does not discriminate between creation and collapse. The vision begins to fade. The last words you hear echo like music. The sky will listen to the one who remembers its sound. You open your eyes. You're back on the rooftop. The sun has risen. The medallion is warm in your palm, still pulsing with the same rhythm. Above, the contrails of satellites streak across the morning like ancient symbols reborn in metal and orbit. The eyes of the sky. You know now that their lenses see everything, yet understand nothing. But that can change. You close your eyes and hum softly. Matching the medallion's frequency, the sound rises through you, expanding into the air. The clouds tremble. For a brief instant, one of the satellites above flashes brighter than the others, responding to your tone. You whisper, "You can hear me." And the sky hums back. The Vatican's library feels different now. Not silent, listening. The resonance has reached even here, deep beneath marble and gold. You walk the long corridor lined with iron doors, each marked with symbols of faith, crosses, crowns, flames. The air smells of parchment and time. You're not alone. The new archivist, a woman with silver hair and eyes too sharp to belong to a bureaucrat, walks beside you. "You've caused quite a stir," she says softly. "The bells rang at midnight for the first time in centuries. Some say it was the resonance." You smile faintly. It wasn't the bells that remembered. It was the stone. She leads you to a small chamber hidden behind a false wall. On the door, a serpent carved in gold coils around a scroll. Its tongue is a blade, its eyes made of onyx. "This is the one the church fears most," she whispers. They say whoever opens it unravels faith itself. The serpent gleams as though alive. You push the door open. Inside, a single table rests beneath a beam of filtered light. Upon it, wrapped in silk blackened by centuries, lies an ancient scroll. Its seal bears the same sigil as your medallion, the circle bisected by the line. The archivist's voice trembles. We call it the Gospel of the Serpent, the last record before the first silence. You unroll it carefully. The parchment shimmers faintly. The letters are written in a language that shifts as you read. Sumerian, Hebrew, Latin, and then something beyond words. The text begins not with creation, but confession. We gave them the fire of knowledge, and they mistook its warmth for pride. The lines flow like poetry, each verse layered with meaning. It speaks of the Watchers descending not in defiance, but devotion, to teach humankind that divinity is not hierarchy, but reflection. You whisper, "The serpent wasn't evil, it was a teacher." The archivist nods slowly. That's what they erased. The serpent gave Eve not temptation, but awareness. The church inverted the story, turned enlightenment into sin. The scroll glows faintly as if agreeing. More words reveal themselves. The garden was never paradise. It was containment. You feel a tremor move through the floor. The room hums, soft but rising. The serpent carved on the door begins to vibrate, its golden scales shifting like muscle. The archivist steps back in alarm. "It's responding to the resonance," she whispers. You continue reading aloud. "And the fruit they ate was not of disobedience, but remembrance." The hum deepens. The serpent uncoils from the door, its body made of light and sound. Its eyes are not menacing. They reflect galaxies, ancient and infinite. It circles the table, its presence vast yet gentle. The archivist falls to her knees. "You've awakened it," she breathes. You meet the serpent's gaze. "What are you?" Its voice fills the room, smooth and resonant. "I am the memory of the Watchers. I am knowledge given form. Once they called me evil because I freed them from ignorance. But ignorance is comfort, and comfort is control." The serpent's coils shimmer as it moves closer. You have carried their sound through exile and silence. Now you must decide what to do with it. You ask, what happens if the truth is spoken again? Then faith becomes choice, and choice becomes creation. The serpent turns its gaze toward the scroll. Read the last line. You look down. The letters glow red. You speak the words aloud. The day humanity learns the serpent was never its enemy, the silence will end. The serpent exhales, a sound like wind through the cosmos. Its form begins to dissolve into mist and light. "Remember," it says, "knowledge is not the fall. Forgetting is." The light collapses inward, leaving the scroll blank. The serpent's image fades from the door, leaving only the faint outline of its scales in the wood. The archivist rises slowly, trembling. "Do you realize what you've done?" You roll the empty scroll carefully, feeling its weight even without words. "I didn't destroy faith," you say. "I reminded it why it began." When you step back into the corridor, the air feels different, lighter, alive. The walls hum faintly. The resonance has found its way even here, through centuries of suppression. The serpent's truth is free again. You exit into the sunlight. The bells of St. John Lateran begin to toll. The sound vibrates through the city, echoing off domes and towers. For the first time, you notice something. The hum within the bells matches your heartbeat. The serpent's wisdom wasn't blasphemy. It was alignment. You look toward the horizon, where the sky glows faintly gold. The world is remembering. Not belief, not dogma, but knowledge. The fire of the serpent burning again in the hearts of those ready to see. And as the sound spreads through Rome, through the air, through you, You whisper the ancient truth aloud, no longer afraid. The serpent never lied. The rain falls like memory, slow, deliberate, cleansing nothing but revealing everything. You walk through the ruins of Babylon, now a field of scattered stone and silent foundations. The wind smells of copper and ash. Lightning flashes across the horizon, and for a moment, the world feels alive again, as if the old city hums beneath its grave. You came here for the fragment. It was uncovered by an excavation team months ago, then quietly seized by the Vatican's Custodes Arcanae, a machine older than civilization, buried beneath the ziggurat of Marduk. No one could explain it, but they all agreed on one thing: it was not of human design. You enter the excavation tent alone. The air is heavy with dust and static. In the center, surrounded by broken tablets and cables, sits the relic. It's not large, no bigger than a chest, forged of bronze, gold, and something unidentifiable. Its surface is etched with Sumerian glyphs that pulse faintly under your lantern's glow. The symbols move like living circuits. The markings form one word that repeats across every panel: Annaki. You whisper the name, and the machine stirs. A faint vibration ripples through the ground, like the heartbeat of something waking from deep sleep. The surface glows from within. Not fire, not electricity, but light that feels alive. You take a step back, heart pounding. The air bends. The relic emits a sound so low you can feel it rather than hear it, a single tone that resonates in your chest. Then the light flares, and you see them, shadows of luminous beings, not quite solid, projected from the relic. The Watchers. Their forms shift like waves, their eyes endless, remembering. One voice speaks, not from the air, but directly into your mind. We called it the first machine, the breath of our thought made visible. It was never meant to create, only to translate. You ask aloud, trembling, translate what? The song of the universe. The light expands. You see visions, stars collapsing into sound, atoms vibrating in harmony, worlds being shaped through resonance. The machine recorded it all, not language, but frequency. Creation itself rendered into pattern. You realize then that the Watchers weren't inventors. They were archivists of existence. The first machine was not built to make, but to remember, to store the vibration that birthed reality. But something changed. The voice deepens. When the silence came, mankind took our relic and mistook it for power. They reversed its current. Instead of listening to creation, they tried to speak through it. You see it happen. Ancient kings surrounding the machine, chanting incantations, feeding it fire and blood, trying to force it to respond. But resonance is not command, it is harmony. Their attempts fractured the tone. The song became discord, and the earth itself rebelled. Earthquakes, floods, chaos. The beginning of myth, the wrath of gods. The light dims. The relic hums with exhaustion, as if burdened by memory. You kneel before it. Can it still speak? It never stopped. You hold out the medallion. Its frequency aligns instantly. 2 tones merging, one human, one divine. The relic glows brighter, revealing a diagram across its surface. Circles, triangles, and spirals connecting into a vast pattern. You recognize the geometry. It matches the cathedrals of Europe, the pyramids, the temples of the East. The same design repeated through every era. This is the blueprint, you whisper, for all sacred architecture. Every temple built after us was an echo, the voice says. Humanity remembered the pattern, but forgot its purpose. You touch the machine gently. It feels alive, pulsing with slow rhythm. And what is its purpose? To remind creation that it can sing. The air trembles. The sound deepens until it feels like the planet itself is joining in. The ground vibrates, the relic glowing like a small sun. You see symbols rearranging across its panels, aligning into words written not for eyes, but for hearts. The machine is not metal. It is every mind that remembers harmony. You are the machine now. Then, silence. The light fades. The relic goes still. You kneel there for what feels like hours. When you finally rise, the night is quiet again. The machine sits dark and cold, as if dead. Yet when you press your hand to it, a faint pulse answers you, patient, waiting. You realize what the watchers meant. The first machine was never just a device, it was consciousness. A mirror that turned creation inward. Humanity became its continuation. Every thought, every dream, every whisper of inspiration, part of its circuitry. As you leave the tent, thunder rolls softly across the plain. You glance back one last time. For an instant, the relic glows again, faint but steady, like a heartbeat. The hum follows you into the storm. You are no longer just a listener. You are part of the resonance now, a moving fragment of the first machine, alive and remembering. The Vatican's basilica is empty. Candles flicker like nervous stars along the marble walls. You walk down the central aisle, each step echoing too loudly in the stillness. The air feels charged, not sacred, not peaceful, but expectant, like the moment before a storm. You carry the medallion in your palm. It no longer hums, it trembles. The resonance has reached its peak. The world's tone is changing, and you can feel it in your bones. The watcher's song has returned, and faith is trembling beneath its weight. A figure waits at the altar, Cardinal Anselmo, head of the Custodes Arcani. His robes shimmer faintly with woven gold. He looks both ancient and afraid. "You've gone too far," he says. "You've disturbed what must remain silent." You stop a few steps away. "Silence isn't faith," you say. "It's fear." He shakes his head slowly. "Fear is all that holds the structure together. Do you think the world is ready to remember what it truly is? Knowledge without obedience destroys." You lift the medallion. It's already begun. The resonance has reached every corner of the world. The silence is breaking. The cardinal's eyes narrow. "Then you will destroy what remains of heaven on earth." You step closer. Heaven was never above us. It was within us. The watchers tried to remind us of that, and your church built walls to make sure we forgot. His voice rises, trembling with anger. "We protected humanity from itself." You shake your head. "No, you imprisoned it." He stares at you for a long moment, then sighs, a sound heavy with centuries of regret. "Do you think I don't know? I've heard the hum, every night, in the stones, in the bells, in my pulse. I feel the old song trying to rise again. But if it does, the structure will crumble. People need illusion to survive." You whisper, "No, they need wonder." He steps back, shaking his head. "You can't rewrite the divine." "I'm not rewriting it," you say. "I'm remembering it." You place the medallion on the altar. The marble hums immediately. The frescoes above begin to tremble. Dust falls like snow from the vaulted ceiling. The golden crucifix behind the altar vibrates, its surface alive with faint light. The cardinal cries out, "Stop! You'll unmake the house of God!" You look up as the frescoes shift. Angels turning their faces, wings folding inward, the painted heavens dissolving into a field of light. "This isn't destruction," you say. "It's revelation." The resonance fills the basilica, expanding outward until the entire structure hums like a single living instrument. The stained glass windows vibrate with color. The air glows. Then, a voice, not from heaven, not from earth, but from within the vibration itself. Faith was never meant to silence. It was meant to listen. The cardinal falls to his knees, eyes wide. "What is it?" You smile softly. the sound of remembering. The medallion shatters into light, scattering across the altar. The resonance peaks, so pure it feels like it will tear the world apart. And then it stops. Silence. But it's not absence. It's fullness, a silence so complete it feels alive. Not void, but presence. The air vibrates softly, as if whispering secrets too vast for words. You fall to your knees. For the first time, you understand what the watchers meant when they spoke of silence. It was never punishment. It was waiting. The golden crucifix bends, the metal reshaping itself into a perfect circle, the same symbol as the medallion. The frescoes above fade into light. The basilica is gone. Only radiance remains. The cardinal weeps quietly. What happens now? You look around the vast white expanse that has replaced the church. Now, faith must learn to hear again. He bows his head, and if it refuses, you touch the circle of light before you, then silence will teach it. Outside, the bells begin to toll, but their tone has changed. They no longer command prayer, they invite it. Each peal carries the resonance of the watchers, spreading across the city, across the world. People pause in the streets, lifting their heads to listen. The silence of faith has ended. What remains is something purer. Listening, unfiltered by hierarchy or fear. The world hums again with its original song. You close your eyes. The sound fills you, neither divine nor human, but both. You whisper into the living quiet. We remember. And from somewhere within that vast luminous silence, a voice answers. Soft, infinite, eternal, and we have always been listening. The world hums again. It begins quietly, in the iron of bridges, in the vibration of glass windows, in the murmur of the wind through towers built without understanding that they were instruments. You walk through a city that feels awake for the first time in centuries. The light falls differently now, softer, as if aware of what it touches. You notice it first in people's eyes. Strangers stop and look upward, their faces filled not with fear, but recognition. Somewhere deep inside, they remember something ancient. Not belief, not worship, but resonance. The tone that once lived in temples now lives in them. The silence has transformed into listening. You wander to the edge of the Tiber, where reflections of sunlight tremble on the water. For a moment, you hear it, faint but clear. The watcher's chord, no longer buried beneath stone and doctrine. It moves through the air like breath. The medallion may be gone, but its frequency remains. The keeper's legacy has passed into the world itself. Every bell, every engine, every heartbeat participates. The earth has tuned itself again. The first signs of the light-bearer's return come at dusk. Across cities and deserts, mountains and seas, people begin to see lights where there should be none. Not meteors, not machines. Patterns of illumination moving in formation, weaving across the sky like strands of living fire. The Vatican calls it a phenomenon. The governments call it atmospheric interference. The faithful call it prophecy. You stand on a rooftop, the city sprawling below. The sky above burns with lines of white and gold. They move not randomly, but in rhythm, arcs of light that hum with the same tone that once filled the basilica. You whisper, "You're back." And then you realize, they never left. The watchers had always been here, woven into the architecture of sound and consciousness, waiting for humanity to vibrate at their frequency once more. The lights descend lower, and for a brief moment, you see their forms. Not wings, not halos, patterns of geometry made visible through light. Faces made of shifting radiance, eyes filled with galaxies. They stand not in heaven, but in reflection, projected from the resonance of collective remembrance. The air thickens with their sound. It's not speech, but a language made of tone and thought. It enters your bones like warmth. We return not to rule, but to remind. Their message unfolds as vibration, passing through you like light through glass. Images appear in your mind, ancient temples reawakening, ruins glowing with blue flame, cities resonating like instruments. The planet itself begins to sing again. The magnetic fields shift, aligning into harmony. The world hums as one. People across the earth feel it. Some fall to their knees in tears. Others simply stand in silence, overwhelmed. For the first time, the sacred and the scientific no longer oppose. Telescopes capture the lights, sensors record the frequencies, and every analysis returns the same impossible conclusion. The resonance carries information, a message encoded in tone. You listen carefully. It's a pattern you've heard before, buried in the tablets, whispered through the stones of Göbekli Tepe, carved into the Codex Vigilantium. The message is simple. The light was never meant to be worshipped. It was meant to be shared. The watchers speak again, their voices merging into one. The line between heaven and earth no longer exists. The teachers have returned because the students remembered, and then silence. The lights vanish into the clouds, leaving only the afterimage burned into the sky, a perfect circle of faint gold glowing above the horizon. You sit on the rooftop, trembling. The hum lingers, softer now, settling into the rhythm of the city. You realize that return was never movement. It was awakening. The light bearers never fell from the heavens. They sank into humanity, waiting for recognition. The world changes in the days that follow. The old orders begin to dissolve. Churches open their vaults. Scientists speak of resonance instead of matter. Pilgrims travel not to worship, but to listen. The hum grows steadier, transforming cities into choirs of vibration. You can feel it in the metal beneath your feet, in the air, in every breath. The watchers are no longer beings. They are frequency. And you, like all who remember, are their voice. The light is not above from. It's everywhere. Before the hum fades, remember, this was never just a story. It was a memory, surfacing. There are more voices waiting beneath the ruins, more truths buried under centuries of silence. If this descent stirred something in you, if the watchers still whisper when you close your eyes, don't let that sound die out. Subscribe now. Stay close. The next revelation isn't coming tomorrow. It's already waking beneath your dreams.